So actually, I'm going to create a new document. Make sure we work with this the same way we work with the rest of them. So see it, print is a print document, and I'm just going to change this to inches and make it 7 by 7. All right. CMYK, great. All right. So I'm using this Essentials Classic Workspace. I'm using the simple toolbar, not the advanced one. So if you want to, you make sure you're using the same toolbar I am. It's, you go under Window, Toolbars, you want the basic toolbar. Difference when it comes to the pen tool between the two toolbars is that the advanced toolbar will actually lay them all out, all the variations out there for you. The simplified toolbar, the basic toolbar, though, keeps them all kind of contained within 1 or 2 tools. So we've got our selection tools here at the top, and we've got our pen tool, which there's that little arrow next to it. If we click on that, you'll see there's also an anchor point tool that's associated with it. We'll talk about that. And then right below it is a curvature tool, which looks like a pen tool, but is a little different. Let's start with this one just because it's rather basic. So if we grab that curvature tool and come out here onto our artboard and just click a point and then come up here and click another point, we get a straight line. But as soon as we introduce a third point, notice that as I pull my cursor away, I start to see the shape that my next line is going to have. Do that and click here, and it'll lay down a curve that matches. So every time after the third point, every time I pull out my cursor and I go to place another point, the next point is going to affect my path overall, and I've got a little preview that shows me precisely what it's going to do. So, you know, I find it, once I get to a point like this, I find it a little more frustrating to use this tool than anything else. I don't use this one very much, to be honest with you, but it's here. If I've got a shape to draw, I'll just use the pen tool. But you know, you will make a mistake and grab the wrong tool sometime. Almost everybody does. And if you do, you at least know what you did. So, you know, if we just kind of click around, we'll see what, you know, we're going to get with every click. And if I get to the end and I'm done, tap the escape key on your keyboard, and that will end drawing. So I'm done, I get a shape like that. Fairly organic and, you know, not too bad. So at this point though, if I grab my direct select tool and click on this, you'll see that it's really just a Bezier path. I mean, I can't go back and edit it the way I drew it, basically. I can edit it as a Bezier. I mean, I can go in here and grab handlebars and, you know, change stuff, but that's the way I end up editing it. So, but with the curvature tool, that's kind of what we get. If I can pick it back up and start from the last point, which is a little nuts. But if I deselect that, there. If I hold down the shift key when I'm drawing out my next point, it will kind of constrain, it'll constrain that to a little bit more of a regular curve. So like without the shift key, I can kind of drag around anywhere, but hit the shift key and it'll snap to a little more geometric measurements, more of a half circle shape. Tap the escape key and I'm out of it. All right. So that's the curvature tool. It's got its use. I mean, if you're looking for something that's relatively organic that, you know, it doesn't have to conform to anything specifically, it's not a bad tool to use. So the tools we looked at last week too, by the way, like the width tool over here, we can use with these. Start creating some funky Tim Burton-esque kinds of thicknesses and shapes on these lines. And I can still edit the path as well. So even after I've added that thickness to it, if I go back here to my direct select and click on a path or on a point, I can refine these a little bit. So I can go back and clean them up and refine them. Because it's a lot of times not until after you've applied other effects to them that you realize what you really drew in the first place or how clean it is. So anyway, that's our curvature tool. If you inadvertently click on that, you know, this is the kind of thing you'll get. So I'm just going to grab all of this and drag it out. Actually, I don't want fills on this at all. Let's take the fills off. All right. So that's working with our curvature tool. So the next is our pen tool, which is right above it. And if I just select that, it's fairly easy to use for the most part. You basically just click to drop a point and you drag with your cursor. You drag out these handlebars and then you come out and you get that little blue line that gives you a preview of what you're going to get next. Come out here, lay a point down and move it. Come over here, lay a point down and you move it, and keep drawing stuff out like that. And draw that, and then I can come back up here and close it up if I want to. All right. So that's just real simple. 4 points. I drug out the handlebars and created a circular kind of shape. If you need to draw a circle, though, use a primitive to do that. You know, if you need a good circle, use the right tool to do it. You know, if you need to hang a picture, you don't use a wrench. You know, necessarily. So make sure that we're, you know, thinking about all these shapes in the right context. If I'm trying to trace something that's supposed to be circular, I'm going to use an ellipse instead. All right. So it kind of goes. It seems like it goes without saying, but you know, when you get into building, sometimes you don't stop to think about these things. And so, anyway, that's just a very simple shape. I'll pull this down out of the way, and I'm going to do it again. So, and let's go back and kind of take a look at this circular shape. So maybe I want something that's roughly circular, but not a true circle. Pen tool kind of makes sense. But I'm gonna draw out a circle here real quick and point something out. So if I draw this out, and I'm gonna go to preview mode, Command Y, you'll see that this shape, direct select, this circle is made up of exactly 4 different points, all right? And remember that one of the things on our grading rubrics for the tracings is that I'm using points efficiently. 4 points for a circle, for instance, is all you need, and that's all you should have. The fewer points you have, the easier it is to edit the shape later on. So the other reason to manage your points, aside from ease of editability later on, is that now that image setters are better and whatnot, it's not such a big deal, but it does still happen. The more points in your drawing, the larger the file size gets to be. And if you've got a very complicated kind of a drawing with where you've used, auto traces and all sorts of other things, and you've got, 1,000 points where 100 would do, it makes a difference with the file size. And also, from time to time, whenever output devices go to print them, it'll give some issues as well. So, I'm a fan of always knowing why I put every point down. Why every point is where it's at, if you can. So, always working with as few points as humanly possible. So, a circle is only 4. So if I'm going to draw a circular shape with a pen tool, I'm going to want to try to match that same theory. So we'll just, and I'm not trying to be truly circular here, but click and drag out. So it's kind of an oblong, egg-shaped kind of a thing, but it's only made up of 4 points. If I draw this out like this, so this one has somewhere in the neighborhood of 6 to 8 points. If we take a look at the two shapes, it's not as consistent and not as clean as my original one with only 4 points. So the fewer points, the smoother and more consistent your shape's going to be overall as well. But when you got a bunch of unnecessary ones, you start getting flattened out areas and shapes that maybe don't really match what you're truly looking for. So even though they're the same basic shape, this shape good, this shape bad, or not as good. So, having said all of that, it's something to look out for. If you need something really rather irregular, that does this kind of a thing, then by all means, use the number of points you need to get the shape you want. Something like this, I do need more points for. So I'm just gonna get the two of those. Let's try something new. Let's do I can drag these out. Or maybe actually here. Something like that. Now, I can get even more control over this pen tool though than what I've got now. So I'm just clicking and dragging out. The path that's created by the pen tool, by the way, is referred to as a Bezier path because it's kind of wavy as it goes between the 2 points, and its direction is actually dictated by these handlebars that come off of every point. So, I can adjust the curvature of that by adjusting these. But this curved path is referred to as a Bezier path, and the little bars that come off of each point when I go to edit them are referred to as handlebars. So if you hear me refer to, why don't you move this handlebar a little higher, that's what I'm talking about. All right. So that's kind of organic. But what if I need points? What if I need to change directions in my path? So we can do that too. And this is where our key commands come. This is where our keyboard keys come in. So I'm going to grab my pen tool and I'm going to draw just pull out my handlebars. So if I hold down the shift key, it will constrain the handlebars horizontally to 45 degrees or vertically, whichever one I need. So I'm going to pull it out horizontally, hold down my shift key, and then I'm going to come over here and place another point and kind of finish that curve off. But what if I need for this to be a corner point? For this to come to a corner and change directions. If I press on, while I'm still holding on my handlebar, see I'm still kind of dragging this out and dragging it around. If I press my Option key while I'm dragging and I move my cursor, see the change in my handlebar direction? I broke the tangency of those handlebars by holding down that Option key. So I can come out here, let go of my mouse button, and then click to my next point and drag it out, hold down my Option key, change directions again on my handlebar, let go, and I can drag out. So, and if we take a look at that, here, one continuous curve, but now I've started changing the direction of my lines. The way I'm going about this right now, like I said earlier, is exactly the same way InDesign, Photoshop, Premiere, and After Effects pen tools work. They all work the same way. So you can figure out here and you get comfortable with it here. When you get to digital media and to motion design, that'll be a drop kick when you start using the pen tool, because it's all the same. All right? All of my exercises that I have do it this way. So, Option key changes direction. Shift key will constrain horizontal or vertical. So click, hold down my shift key, shift and Option will allow me to break the tangent, and whichever direction I pull that handlebar, it'll constrain it horizontal 45 degrees or vertical as well. Come down here, draw that out. Whenever you change direction of the path, though, like this, make sure that, if I want to do this, and I'm going to change directions, I'm just going to press my Option key and drag. Make sure that if I let go of my Option key first, it's going to realign those handlebars. So make sure that you hit the Option key, change it, let go of your mouse button first to maintain the shape. and then move on to your next point. If you're doing it and it seems like things are flipping around on you and you're not getting what you want, that's generally the reason, is you let up on the mouse button, the option key before you let up on the mouse button is usually what happens there. But that allows us to create some slightly more organic kinds of shapes. So now let's take a look at something different here, because the pen tool lets us place paths, use those handlebars to draw it out and draw it into the shape that I want it, right? So what if, though, I'm going to make, I'm going to take an ellipse, which again is just placing points and giving me that Bezier curve. I can use if I go underneath my pen tool now and I've got this anchor point tool, I can select that. And if I click on one of these points, if I just click on it, it'll actually break the tangent on the handlebars. So I can make a teardrop kind of shape, grab my direct select tool, grab this again, make a teardrop kind of a shape very easily by starting with just a circle using actually I'll tear this off, put it up here, using my anchor point tool and modifying it. I can also go back with this anchor point tool into any of these other shapes and click to break the tangency. But if I click on it again and drag, I can drag out new handlebars. So you can kind of do over there. And if I come down here, or actually even with this, with my anchor point tool selected, if I hold down the option key, I can change the direction of that as well. So the option key still works using this anchor point tool. Clear that out. Option key. Actually drag it out. Then hold down the option key, click on it, and change the direction of it. Any questions about what I've done so far? All right. So let's look at, let's see, think for a moment. All right, so I'm going to create a new document 7x7, and doing everything I just did, I'm going to Command-Shift-P will place in my, oh, I know why. Cancel. So that's, that's how we use the pen tool. Literally just, click and drag. Hold down that Option key to switch directions. Make a cloudy kind of a shape. And yeah. So Option and Shift will change directions, but it'll constrain. There is a neat little trick. If I'm in the middle of drawing a shape maybe, but I need to move stuff around a little, maybe I need to select something and move it out of the way. If I tap the Command key on my keyboard while I'm drawing, it'll turn into a direct select tool. I could go back and make a quick adjustment to something else. But then when I let up on that Command key, I'm right back to where I was drawing in whenever I left off. Do that. Hit the Command key. I'll come back over here. Maybe I actually want to shape more like this. And then I can come back and I can continue drawing. And when I get to the end and connect my points up, hold down my Option key and I can draw that out however I wanted as well. Yeah, so the command would actually, whenever you hit the Command key, it actually changes your cursor into the direct select tool. So you can go back and edit a point. And then when you let it go, you can go back and continue drawing the way you were. All right. Any questions so far? The exercise that I give you will give you plenty of opportunities to use the key commands that I've given you. They all require it, so. So those are the basics of, using the pen tool the sort of classic way, all right? So I'm gonna go ahead and show you the simpler Illustrator way really quick, although just keep in mind, all of the exercises you're gonna do are you need to use this classic method of drawing these lines, of creating, all of your curves, just because, like I said, Photoshop and the rest of the programs all work that way. So here's the difference between Illustrator and the rest of them, which on one hand is really cool. On the other hand, I don't know, it kind of breaks the norm and the convention. If I drop a point here, here, and here, and then I hold down my Option key and hover over top of a line, see how my cursor changed? Click and drag. And I can create curved lines that way as well. It's a little simpler. Lay out as many points as I need to lay out. But you got to keep them, kind of straight line segments. Hold down that Option key. And you can create the curved lines. It's a little simpler way of doing it. And remember, the fewer points, the better. When you do it this way, it kind of forces you a little bit to use fewer points because all you're doing is laying down your extreme point areas. So I place a point here, one here, one here, one here, one here, and then I'm just pulling out curves, as opposed to the tendency when you're first learning it is to kind of do this kind of thing. And if we compare these, this has got an extra point on every arc that this one doesn't have. Using my direct select tool, I can go in here, click on one of these points, and I can still adjust and kind of tweak up that curve a little bit. So, all right. But with the pen tool, we're completely in control of every point we lay down and every curve that we drag out. So, and that's generally what we want. We want to be in control of what we're putting down on the page. So I'm going to pull these out of the way real quick and take a quick look at, so directly beneath my primitives right here on my toolbar is a pencil. And if you don't have a pencil, the other tools in this set are also the paintbrush and a blob brush tool. So if you've got a paintbrush, if you click on it, you should see the pencil tool right behind it. And it's actually in on the keyboard. Pencil tool is a little more of a free form drawing item. So select the pencil, turns into a little pencil, click and just draw a shape on your artboard. Nice thing about the pencil tool is it's very organic, a little more artistic in nature. On the other hand, look at all those points. Boatload of points. And we need to clean stuff like that up. So, unlucky for us, there are a variety of ways to do that. So I just kind of drew that out. I can control the shape of it. Actually, if I delete that, I'm going to do this again. So kind of watch my cursor as it moves around the screen. And you'll see that I'm not very great with a mouse, drawing with a mouse. I'd rather have a pen. But when I let go of it, it smooths a lot of it out by its nature. If I come over here to this pencil tool, if I double click on it, it'll bring up a dialog. And this fidelity setting is kind of what controls that. I've got it cranked all the way up to smooth. But if I slide that fidelity setting down here closer to accurate and say okay, and now go and sort of draw around, I get a shape that's much more like the really crappy line I drew in the first place. So I can adjust the amount of smoothing with that fidelity setting. But again, with the fidelity setting set way down, look at the number of points sitting in that shape. That's a boatload of points. If I select this one, you can see the difference between the two. So we can kind of clean these up with there's a couple of different ways to do it. One is, on our toolbar, if we come down to just below that width tool, there's what looks like a pencil tool, but with a bunch of stripes through it. Looks like a candy cane, kind of. This is a smooth tool. So if I select that smooth tool, and it gives me, this is that fidelity slider like we had with the pencil. If I slide this up, see this effect it has on my shape? It also changes the shape of it, which isn't great, but we can kind of adjust that a little bit and give it fewer points, smooth it out. If I don't have to use that slider, I can just click on the tool itself, come over here and I can just sort of draw over top of this line, and it'll smooth out the areas that I want to smooth out. So like probably want to smooth out in through here. It'll do that. So using the fidelity slider will smooth it overall. But if I just want to do certain areas, I just use the tool itself and I just kind of draw over those areas that I want to smooth out. Grab my pencil tool again here real quick. Smooth tool. Kind of smooth that shape out. And you just got to be kind of close to it. It doesn't have to be super far away. If you drew with the pen tool and you drew a really complicated path, you can use these same tools on the pen tool as well. The tools themselves are just different ways of drawing shapes. They give you different qualities, basically. But part of my point to explaining the whole difference between a path and then the stroke and the fill is because at the end of the day, all we're doing is drawing paths, and all these tools affect the paths. So, even though I'm using a smooth tool on the one I do with the pencil, I could come over here, although it's not really going to do much. I could come over here and use this path. Actually, it did. It actually added more points trying to use it there. So I've kind of messed up my nice point lean path. So I can use it on any path shape. Yeah. Say it again. The smooth tool should be down here just below this width tool. It looks like a pencil with a bunch of lines through it. Do you have it? So, but all these tools just let us draw a lot more organic kinds of shapes. All right. Any questions before I move on? All right. So the one other place so this smooth tool, like I said, if I select that, I get this fidelity slider, the smooth slider. I can also go up here through my object menu down to path, and there is a simplify. There's also a smooth option. If I choose the smooth, it just gives me the basically that pencil tool. But if I use the simplify, path, simplify, I get that a little better version of that slider that I had before. There, object path, simplify, there we go. And we can simplify our paths that way too. It just changes the shape. Whenever you use the simplify stuff though, and the smoothing, it does change the basic shape of what you put down. So just kind of keep that in mind too. Good tools to use, but they will change the shape. All right. Pencil, smooth, pen. Oh, I did forget something with the pen tool. I'm going to go back here to one of my other shapes real quick. If I decide with the pen tool, I'm using the pen tool, that I need an extra point somewhere, notice with my pen tool, if I hover over top of the path, the cursor changes and it puts a little plus sign in the corner of it. If I click, I can add another point into my path. The same thing happens if I hover over top of the point with the pen tool. It changes, puts a little minus in the corner of it. I can remove points that way too. If I hold down the shift key when I do that, actually, whenever I remove points, it does modify the shape of the path. So, all right. So I can add points in after I've drawn them, and I can subtract points. All right. No questions? Cool. So, like I said, kind of need to get to learn to use these things. That one. In Brightspace, under Content, if we look down through here, you should find in class material, there should be a folder for pen tool exercises. There are a bunch of objects in here to trace and use the pen tool with and practice. And I'd like for you to do them all. But the first one I want you to do is right here, this pen tool exercise is an Illustrator file. And when you open it, you get, oh, I don't have it open. I thought I did. Here's the pen tool exercise. And it tells you exactly what to do. You're only using the pen tool. Blue, clicking and pressing. Red is dragging a handle. Green is dragging a handle of an existing anchor point. And if you come down here into these instructions, it tells you exactly what to do with all of these. So open this file up. And for instance, on this tree, you're just clicking in the middle of every dot. So grab the pen tool, And you're going to start with 1, go down to 2, and they'll tell you what to do at every one. Hold down the shift key and come over to 3, because remember, holding down the shift key does what? Constrains? Yes, constrains. So to make sure that it stays horizontal, click on 3, come down to 4, hold your shift key and go over to 5, and you're just going to follow the instructions all the way around. Shift key for each of these. If you do outline mode, it's kind of nice. If you do outline mode, you can still see everything. Until you get back to the very beginning. Pretty simple. If I move on to the next one, real quick, again, tells you what to do. Click and press or hold down the shift key. So I want to click on 1, press and hold the shift key, and I'm going to drag out to number 2. See, it says drag out to here. And then I'll come down here to 3 and click. Hold down my shift key and drag out to here. I'll flip those so we can see what we got. Come down here to 5, click, hold down my shift key, drag out to 6. Come down to 7, click, hold down my shift key, drag out to 8. And we'll come down to 9, click, drag, hold the shift key, drag out to 10. Every exercise builds on the last one. Remember, when you're done drawing, just hit the escape key. Maybe I want to be able to see these lines a little better. I can make those a little bit heavier if I want. But then we've got curved lines. Curved with corner points. All things that I did in my demo, but you're going to follow this to do all of these. There are 3 sheets of them. So the first thing I want you to do is complete all of these at least one time, at least once. You want to do it more than once, that's great, but do them all at least once. And then once you've done that, and not until then, once you've done that, if we look back in here, there are other images that use and you'll use the pen tool for all of them. And I want you to trace as many of these as you can trace. So do the exercise first, then work on tracing these exercises. And there's a campfire, there's a Batman logo, I think there's a Superman, I don't know what that one was. Silhouette of a tree, Spider-Man, and a squirrel. The squirrel kind of shows you what to do as well. Not the way the exercises do, though. All right? But I want you to do all those and get comfortable with that pen tool. Once you're through all those, I would like to see them before you move on. But, what's this? Oh. And there's a old Twitter logo. Pre-X, I guess. So, anyway. I want you to work on the pen tool exercises, then trace those other objects that are in the pen tool exercises folder on Canvas. Once you've completed all of that, you can work on assignments. And yeah, that's all that I was going to really show show how to do, just so we can spend some time on that. But like I said, there are 3 sheets of those exercises, so I'll kind of be around. I'm also going to want to, you've all brought your objects that you're going to want to draw, so I want to look at those one-on-one, and then if you've got any questions about your church exercise, we can take a look at that as well, all right? So that's what we're going to work on for pretty much the balance of the afternoon. But pen tool's pretty important in the grand scheme of things with everything you'll do here. So being able to use it effectively is really important. All right? Oh, let's see. Let's see.